Rachel, why don't you tell people, let's start fresh here. Tell people who you are, a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
So my name's Rachel Pohl, and I'm an artist. I grew up in Bozeman, Montana, and I lived there for 29 and a half years. And 4 months ago, I decided to move to Norway with my husband and our dog and our cat. And so it has been such a wild ride, uh, trying to get my creativity back after being so uprooted and moving all the way across the world, 4,000 miles away from home. And I'm just really excited to have this conversation because I have a lot that I'm really excited to share that I feel like I haven't really given myself the time and the space to process from just such a big move and such a new life.
Yeah, that's a huge change. So you went from Montana to Norway. Is that right? That's the
Yeah.
switch we just made. That seems like a world. I mean, both are beautiful places, but it seems like that's a little bit of a world apart.
Absolutely. So, growing up in Bozeman, I decided to become an artist when I was really young. When I was 14, I declared, I'm going to go to college for art. It's going to be amazing. I spent most of that time, okay, not most, a lot of that time skiing, spending time outside. I was really lucky to grow up camping and, yeah, just spending a ton of time in nature with my family, which sort of translated to, yeah, me really having this reverence and appreciation for the outdoors, for these places that gave me so much help and so much sort of, yeah, just positivity, added so much to my life. And I started painting the places I visited. That grew into my art career, which I've been doing for almost a decade full time now. And yeah, so just choosing to move was honestly just such it's been such a big deal because my art, my community, who I was, my whole identity was wrapped up in this place of
Mhm.
painting specific landscapes, of doing specific things, skiing at the same ski area for almost 30 years. And it has been so transformational to make this move because, yeah, both are just really beautiful places. But then there's the language barrier. There's
Mm.
been, you know, getting into the system here. It was really hard to get our bank accounts, and you have to have a personal number. And all of these hoops to jump through have been, yeah, they've honestly like taken a lot of that creativity and that foundation away for a bit. We've only been here for, I mean, under 4 months, but it
Mm.
feels like a completely new reality, a completely new way of living. Things like going to the grocery store that used to be simple. Now I have to pull out my phone and do a translator app to try to see what the ingredients are and
Mm.
figure out what things are. And we had to figure out how to get a car loan in a country where we had no credit and all of these things. But it has been truly so amazing. And yeah, we live in the Lofoten Islands of northern Norway. So we are about 100 miles north of the Arctic Circle.
Okay.
So this summer, the sun didn't set for about 6 weeks, and then this winter the sun won't rise for about 6 weeks. So those are just a few of the little changes that we've experienced since moving here.
You sound like you're really positive about it, but that sounds exhausting. Like trying to move, trying to figure out a new life, especially when you go through all of those changes at once. So what has that been like when you're, I mean, because it's a complete shift of obviously physically where you're at, but just the environment that you're in, which I imagine eventually will be really good for the creative side of it, but and like will kind of open up new doors for you. But it's gotta be hard, right? Because you look at it, for example, like you look at your Instagram or you look at like it online and you're like, this is perfect. This is beautiful. This is where everybody wants to be. So, as somebody who wants to move to a Norway or somewhere totally different from where I live in Massachusetts, what what's been different? What's been the hardest thing for you to figure out so far in the few months that you've been there?
Oh, It's hard to pick one thing.
Well, I mean, you can talk
Um,
about more than one. It doesn't have to be one, but I guess, like, what were the things that you were like, "Okay, this is actually really rough?" You mentioned, like, getting a car loan. You mentioned like, how it's 6 weeks in without sun or 6 weeks with sun. Like, that's
yeah,
all of that seems
absolutely. I think one of the hardest things has been I went from feeling so confident in who I was, knowing so many people in my hometown, knowing where to drive, what to get at the market. It's easy to have this false sense of confidence in a situation like
mm,
that, where you know, everyone speaks your language and you know where to drive, you know, like all of these simple, basic things. And I had, I'm sixth generation Montanan, so I have a ton of family there. My parents, my brother, my friends from college, my friends from high school. And to go from that and that level of ease and confidence, where then you have all of this time to create art, to work on your dreams, to just exist, all of that kind of gets taken away when you move somewhere new.
mm,
And the feeling of loneliness and the feeling of what am I doing? I mean, the first few weeks, I looked at flights back to Montana every day. I was like, get me out of here. It was one of the biggest storms of the spring. It was, you know, 35 degrees. There we'd wake up with snow. This was in May, on the mountains. It would be like raining sideways and blowing and cold. And it was miserable. And I was like, what did I just do? I just spent so much energy, so much effort, so much money. It took us, 2.5 years to get these visas. We hired lawyers. It was so much work. And we got here and I was like, can't do it. And I think that's just like such a like basic survival thing, right? Where you're like, get me out of this
yeah,
situation where I feel so uncomfortable. So that time passed. And then there was just this loneliness of like, okay, I have my husband, I have my dog, I have my cat, but that's it. We kind
mm,
of had a friend who we'd made before. We started hanging out with her. She started introducing us to friends. And this week, like I'm exhausted because the last week I did something with friends every single day.
mm,
Bike rides, going to the beach, making dinner, going on hikes. And it's so wild because I haven't made new friends in so long. And it's like so important for all of us to be put in situations or put ourselves in situations where we have to grow and where we feel really, really uncomfortable because you just don't know who you're going to meet, what's going to happen unless you get a bit outside your comfort zone. And
mm,
I think we all think, okay, moving across the world, yeah, I'm good. Like, I'm just gonna wanna move home. Okay, yeah, that is like the initial reaction. But if you could just sit in the discomfort of that for a while, like the friends I've been making, the experiences we've been having, the creativity I've been feeling, the connection with myself. For the first time in my life, I'm doing things because I want to do them,
mm,
not because my family has done them for 6 generations, not because someone told me to. It's so weird to wake up for the first time in my life, and even though it's hard, and even though it's painful, and even though I have days where I do look at flights to go home, not to move, but just to visit. They're few and far between, and I really think that this experience has it's already made me grow in ways that I could not have foreseen, and it reminds me so much of one of my favorite routines in life is doing cold plunges, and I
mm,
started doing them about a year ago. It's ideal to do them in a lake or the ocean, but you can do it in the shower. It doesn't have to be a big deal. You can just turn on the cold water at the end of your shower for a minute. Just did that like this morning. And it like that feeling of being like, I am so uncomfortable right now, but I know this is good for me. And I am just going to stay in this freezing water because it is going to benefit me. I think that is the energy that you kind of have to bring to moving to a new place or making such a big life change such as this. Because no, it is not easy. The loneliness, the feeling just so incompetent and not confident and like trying to check out at the grocery store and just being like in just like just struggling so hard. And then you figure out that you can just go to the self checkout and you figure out what credit card works at what store and
Mm.
you're not just like red in the face getting all of your cards declined. Like just little things like that where like you have to just laugh at yourself and you have to just stay in the discomfort, and then on the other side of that, it's like friendship and making sushi on the beach and like sunsets on mountaintops. But I really don't think that a lot of that translates well to social media. And
Right.
so I'm just really grateful to be able to talk about this.
Yeah. No, it sounds like you've got a lot to unpack there. There's a lot there. So let me ask a very simple question then. Why did you move? What made you and your husband decide to like uproot your lives and do this thing? I mean, what like
Yeah.
that
It's a
seems crazy for
it's a great question. So I think it's kind of like 3 levels. I think the first one is definitely just feeling like we didn't want to wake up and do the same thing every day for the next 50, 60 years
Mm,
because we bought a house out in the country. We, spent the better part of 2.5 years in that house. Like, we owned it for 3 years. We actually just are selling it. It's under contract right now, which is wild as
okay.
of, like, 2 days ago, right? So we bought this dream house, the pandemic happened, and we just kinda kept looking at each other and saying, like, "Are we just gonna do this? I've already been doing this, almost the same thing for 30 years. Are we just gonna do this?" And I think that having the choice to uproot is not something that everyone has. I recognize that it's a massive privilege, 100%. But we chose Norway because we asked ourselves, like, what do we want in life? And we realized that as much fun as it has been we worked almost 800 days in a row with, like, maybe a day off here and there, but, like, not really,
Mm,
to make this dream happen. We're like, we just want to wake up and feel like we have space in the day to go be outside if we want to rest if we want to, and to just actually show up for it and enjoy our lives. And we wanted to do it in a way that felt like we were traveling, but where we weren't, because traveling is really exhausting. And it's not that easy to do with a dog and a cat. And so
mm.
we just sort of, looked at each other and said, like, let's do it. And also, we just love being outside. We love an adventure. We love storytelling. And it just felt like life is short and you never know what's going to happen. You never know when there's going to be a pandemic. You never know. And if you can go find some magic and then also share that with other people, share that with loved ones, be a good ancestor, you know? Like I I think that all the discomfort is so worth it.
Mm. Be a good ancestor. That's something I don't think I've ever heard anybody say before. That's elaborate on that a little bit. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think about America and obviously there's so many amazing things about it and it's a really challenging place for a lot of people and it's a really challenging place to be a mom. I really want to be a mom. I think one of the, things that is really interesting about somewhere like Norway is when we have kids, the government will pay for my maternity leave.
Mm,
And granted, it's my money that I've paid in taxpayer dollars, but I mean, for a year, I will get a year of paid maternity leave. And I
yeah,
just think that that's what everyone deserves. And
I
I
agree.
just think that there's all these structures that I know that like more places could be like a Norway, like a Sweden, like Finland. And I think that maybe one of the things I'm supposed to do, yes, I'm an artist, yes, I'm all these things, but I think one of the things I'm here to do is to maybe share other ways of living that are more humane for people, that are better for people. And being here, I hope to talk more about that kind of thing and like the healthcare system. You
Mm,
know, healthcare is free. Netflix, there's a thing that's basically Netflix, but it's like not called Netflix and it's free. It's like
what?
your taxpayer dollars give you free Netflix. It's amazing. Just things like that. And I know not everyone will agree with this or resonate with it, but that's just the honest truth.
Yeah.
And it feels really yeah, I just hope that more and more we can make life better for more people because I truly believe that everyone deserves that.
Yeah, it's funny. I have no idea what my taxpayer dollars go to. I have no clue what, because they definitely don't go to the roads. They definitely don't go to like the parks. They definitely don't go to things that I really care about. And
Mhm.
that's kind of why I was telling you before we started, I've considered a place like Norway as some place that I would like to live in the future because it's so progressive, right? Like those things
Mhm.
actually really, really matter. I remember last year I was talking to Nikolai Shermer, and he was like basically just telling me how shit this is here and how great, and in not in a like your shit, this is great, but he was very just happy about where he lived and just very clear about like, look, this is the things, even down to like healthcare and getting surgery,
Mhm.
right? Like he was telling me the story about how he was in the US when he tore his ACL and they were like, you need surgery, like, or actually it was his Achilles. And he was just telling me the story about how they were like, yep, we got to cut you open, got to cut you open, got multiple opinions in the US. And then he went home to Norway and he like ended up not getting surgery. And it was just as strong, like, and he skied the whole year on this Achilles that was not surgically repaired. And they just let it heal on his own, like on its own. They're not, their first method of fixing the problem wasn't to cut you open because that's what they're paid to do. They're
Yeah.
healthcare as opposed to actually getting paid to give you surgery. Right. So that was a very like eye-opening thing to me that different countries do just do things differently, and Norway is one of those that is extremely progressive.
Yeah, and it feels, I feel extremely fortunate to be in this system, and our plan is to ultimately live here forever. We do have to learn Norwegian, which is kind of funny because no one else like, we have friends from all over Europe that live here, and they don't have to learn Norwegian. So I'm kind of waiting. I'm kind of like holding out, like I'm gonna learn it, but I'm also kind of holding out for them to just change the rules and be like, so literally only Americans have to learn Norwegian at this point, and they don't have to anymore. But but I'm still trying to learn. We have 6 years to do it.
Wait, you have to learn Norwegian? That's a thing?
Yes.
You actually
You
have
have
to?
to be yeah, you have to be conversational. So you don't have to know all of the words, but you do need to be able to pass a language test. But yeah, we have up to 6 years, and then that's how we would get permanent residency. But so at this point, we just have a one-year visa, and then we get to reapply every year. And that is just based on the stipulation that we are making as much money as we say we're going to make so that we can basically be functioning members of society. And it's
Huh.
really funny because, like, side note, there's this whole corner of the internet that thinks that Charles, my husband, is the heir to Post cereal and that we're worth like millions and millions of dollars. And it's just so funny because, yeah, people are like, oh, yeah, they have a trust fund. And I'm like, we actually couldn't be here unless we were like working hard and like paying taxes off of the money we're earning through the business we made.
Does that does that, like, actually drive you nuts? It's got to, right?
It
There
totally drives me nuts because I like already have all of these money stories, right? Like we all have money stories. And I'm like, I only deserve money if I work really hard for it. And the money I have, I feel guilty about. So I donate it. It's like, it's a whole thing. And then people are like, oh, you're obviously a trust funder. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
it's so
you
insane.
do not know how like much I beat myself up over all of these themes. You do
It's
not need to tell me this.
it's funny because
Falsity.
people have, like, this perception of this, like, beautiful internet persona, and they think everything's just given to you, right? Like, it's not. I talked about this with Caroline, like, a few weeks ago, and she was, uh, we kind of just talked about how you don't have to prove what your job is to anybody anymore, right? Like you don't have to validate
Mhm.
your job to anybody anymore. Your job is your job. You don't need to prove it to someone on the internet that you worked really hard to get to where you're at, right? And that's a difficult thing. It's much easier said than done, obviously, to just be like, no, I don't care what they say, or like I've earned my place. It's an internal struggle that I think everybody deals with, especially if you have an internet platform or whatever. Nobody gives a shit about any of the hard work that you do. They just care
Yeah.
about like trying to put themselves on the same level as you, whether that's bringing you down or bringing what they did up. That's everybody's goal, is to kind, or at least what it seems, is to make everybody on a level playing field. And it's just not what it is. Like some people work harder than others. Some people just, and honestly, a lot of it's luck too, right? Like the right place, right
Totally.
time. Talent's a huge thing, but there's tons of talented people that don't make it. So there's like, I know dozens and dozens and dozens of them where I'm like, you're the best gear I've ever seen in my life, but you're not a professional, right? Like you're not making money doing it. There's so many intangible things that just happen, and I think
Yes.
that's such a hard thing for people to understand. Like it's very right place, right time, opportunity meets your preparation and all this kind of stuff. It's very interesting to me to see where people end up and how those things kind of come together.
I think that is I mean, I would love to talk a bit more about that
Yeah.
because looking back on my art career, so yeah, I decided to become an artist when I was 14. When I was 17, I went to MSU Bozeman. I was there for 5 years, studying art. I have a BFA in painting and then a minor in art history, and I almost got a psychology degree, but I just quit because statistical psychology just didn't work for me. I can't do
Yeah.
numbers. I'm a bit dyslexic. I was like, no, I can't do this. But I still love psychology. That's a huge part of what I do now. And then the biggest thing for me, like the first big thing was meeting, well, I guess I'd known him for a while, but being connected with a now friend who made my prints. I was like, "What? You can just take a picture of your painting and then sell prints?" And he like showed me how to do it. He charged me like half price because I had no money. I was like, 20.
Yeah.
And I started selling them in the shop at Bridger Bowl. And I was so proud of myself. I was like, they just like bought 20 prints for me. And it was a huge deal, and looking back, I'm like, I almost envy my past self for how, like, when you have no when your baseline is, like, so low for what you expect,
Yeah. Yeah.
everything exceeds your expectations, and same with everyone around you, and then when it's like, "Okay, and then I have this happen, and, this happen," and then your career goes up and up and up, and then it's like, well, how do you outdo yourself? And I
Mm.
think that that's kind of like what you just said. You and Caroline were talking about how you reach the ceiling where you're like, okay, I could spend my energy trying to prove, or I could just do my thing. And those who are meant to be here and meant to appreciate it will know. Those who get it, get it. Those who don't, don't. But I got so lucky. I got so lucky with my print making friend. I got so lucky because a gallery in Bozeman, uh, right before I graduated from college, said, "Hey, we've been watching your work since you were in high school. Please show in our gallery if you want. Let's have a show." I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay, let's do this." And so I've been showing there ever since, almost 9 years later. And and then meeting my husband, Charles, honestly was such a huge thing. He taught me how to really value myself a lot more and to not put myself down and be like, "Oh, my art isn't worth that much." He was like, "No, like let's do this." And I realized like how much, masculine and feminine, genders aside, just like we all have masculine and feminine energy within us, how like to kind of have a bit more of that like masculine energy, like I am worth it. These are my prices. My work is great. And to just own that and not shrink away. And meeting him, yeah, really, really taught me to stand up for myself and to become a lot luckier because I kept just putting myself out there and I kept asking for, higher prices for not just originals, but for collaborations, for Instagram posts, for all these things. And I think that, you know, it is also so easy to say, oh, well, this person just got lucky and it was just this single person alone doing all these things and they got lucky. And it's like, no, my whole career has been such an effort of teamwork. My husband, friends, family, the one who makes my prints, like, you know, my employees, my I now have a warehouse where I ship everything. Like it takes a village, not to mention all of the customers and friends who have believed in me and bought my work. And I think like what I'm so excited about going forwards is alchemizing the loneliness and the confusion and the struggle that I have faced over so many years of being an artist and yes, getting lucky and yes, having people tear me down and having a professor who said my work was horrible in front of everyone every day. You know, like I've had all these experiences and I want to alchemize those and build my own community on a platform that's going to live on my website and anyone can join. And it is going to be like a membership type thing. But basically, it will be a safe space for artists and creatives to share their work. I'm going to share behind the scenes on my process for anyone who's interested. I'm probably going to do some kind of live calls. We're going to have, yeah, there's going to be like an art gallery page where people can share their own work and we can all collaborate and I can share about business and we can just make it easier. Like it doesn't have to be hard. We can all succeed. We can all be artists or creatives or whatever it is. And we can all make each other lucky by supporting each other. And like the whole model of the individualist of I'm just going to succeed and
Mm.
screw everyone else, like that is so done. I'm so over that narrative. Like the more we can collaborate with each other and be kind to each other and the more everyone feels supportive, the better. And I think that that's what I'm most excited about going forwards, as much as I am, of course, going to keep painting. And I actually am just starting to show in a new art gallery in Jackson Hole. It's called Gallery Wild. That's happening today. So everything will be live in the gallery when this goes live. That's all great. But like, I'm just so excited about sharing everything that I have learned and everything I've been through with a community of artists who are also just trying to have their art be seen and like trying to share and trying to like make meaning in this crazy world because we all need that.
No, we totally do. And I think that so that's going to be kind of an invaluable resource for other people so that they it's funny like we keep saying like get lucky, but it's like the goal is to get lucky more often, right? Like you just shoot as much as you possibly can, but if you can shoot at a better target, I think it makes everybody's life a little easier, right? You kind of eliminate
Yep.
the stuff that doesn't work, and you kind of get a better lens into what does work. And I think that's one of the best things that you can do with a platform that you've taken so much time and put so much effort into building is actually help other like bring other people up, right? It's a competitive space, but it's not a competitive space, at least from my perspective, that like everybody's art is different, right? It's all unique in a way. It all has this ability to pull different people in or to pull the same people in for a different reason, right? And I think that's one of the things that makes it so easy to collaborate with, at least from the outside looking in. I just there's no benefit to not working with other people. And I think there's very few jobs and career paths that it wouldn't benefit you to work with other people, right? Like that like kind of hustle grind individualist mentality. I think it gets you to a certain point, right? But I think there's a certain point when you're like, all right, I'm just spinning wheels here. Like I'm not doing anything progressive anymore. I have no new idea. Like I've run out. And there's no
Yeah.
reason to have that going forward because it limits your ability to grow. And it's funny, we all collaborate in ways that I don't think we actually realize, right? Like even just people in our regular lives that we just in our everyday lives that we talk to and we're like, oh, that's a really good idea. And then it sparks something that you can actually apply to your work and your career. That's still a form of collaboration. It's just like you don't know you're doing it. You don't think about doing it. So having a space to do that kind of thing seems like a home run.
Yeah, and, like, we're collaborating right now.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
mean, every conversation is a collaboration, and yeah, I'm excited that you think this is an interesting idea. I'm super excited about it. I'm also excited to bring in some things that I've felt nervous about talking about, such as astrology and human design and manifesting, all of these things that I have been kind of behind the scenes been really diving into and paying attention to that I think are, yeah, definitely not mainstream yet
Mm.
and have these sort of like woo-woo connotations. I have found so much value and so much power and clarity and direction in studying these things, and I want to bring all of those different methods together with psychology into how we can unblock and unlock our creativity through collaboration with other people, through community. And I'm just, yeah, I'm still in the beginning of stages of building this platform that I'm alluding to, but I will definitely let everyone know when that happens. But I'm just so lit up by it because yeah, I have just felt like that stagnancy that I had this goal of, okay, I want to move to Norway. I need to make X amount of money to make that possible. And it's been amazing that I've been able to be a full-time artist and support myself and buy a house and all of these things, but it only gets you so far, right? If you are not mentally, emotionally fulfilled.
Mm.
It just like none of it really matters, like, none of the success matters unless you can share it with other people, unless you are lifting other people up, unless you feel like you're making a difference in the world, or that's how it is for me. I find so much meaning in all of the emails and messages and things that I get from people who have said like, "Hey, you've made a difference through your writing, through what you're doing in life," and, like, that's that's what's fun. Painting is just like
Yeah.
that's it's like, okay, if this here's my diagram. Painting is the iceberg, right? Painting is what's above the water, and
Right.
then everything else is what's underneath. All the intention, all the time spent outside, the conversations with friends, the podcast, the writing, the journaling, the inner work, like, all of that is what really matters and, like, what really supports and holds up the art. Without all of that, without feeling rooted and grounded with purpose and, having, like, where to go forwards, I can't create, and none of that, none of it even means anything anymore. And so I think moving to Norway and my whole path, like, everything, it just all feels so like, exactly where I'm supposed to be. That's, like, the simplest way of putting it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's just I I don't think people say this enough, but, like, I am really proud of myself. I am really proud of myself for doing all the hard things that were not handed to me, that people have been telling me not to do all along, and just trusting in myself, and, like, that's the message that I wanna share to everyone is, like, follow your own path, make your own art, be inspired by people, absolutely. Collaborate, do all of that, but, like, we each are here to do something so unique, even if that's within artists, even if that's within creative. Like, we are all so powerful and special and magnetic, but only if we start to really see that, and I think that, like, this move or some hard situation in life is a fast track to that kind of growth.
Mm. Yeah, it's actually a thing that I find myself doing this a lot where I'm making things harder for myself in a way. Like I just like I do this all the time. Like I actually feel like people say this and I don't know if I believe everybody, but I definitely believe it when I say it. I like chaos, right? Like it helps me a lot to think and react because then I'm a habitual overthinker. Like if I think about things too much and you just explain it to me step by step by step, I'm never going to understand. Like I just have to kind of do it, figure it out, and see where I end up. And I think there's so much value in being able to just like adapt and like put yourself in a difficult situation and see how it changes you and changes your perspective, and it gives you a totally new way to look at things that is a privilege, right? Because not everybody gets to just go and
Mhm.
like uproot their life, change everything about their surroundings and do a thing. But it's also, like you mentioned, it's also really hard for people to just stop and be, especially when you have success. It's really hard to stop and just be proud of yourself for where you're at. That's like, it's funny. That's like a thing that's like trending on TikTok right now, right? Like it's a thing that like people are like, it, talking about like being hard on themselves, right? Like they use some example. It's like, oh, we didn't get this contract, right? And then it's like a picture of them at like 5 years old. Like, we get contracts now. Like it's that kind of perspective where you can look at it at any point in your career and you can go like, I made it to this point. Like initially, you're sending emails like hoping that someone will even talk to you on a podcast, right? Or answer you after 8 weeks or something like, and you're like grasping at straws.
Totally.
Or like with art, you're like, you're trying like, this is worth money. I like had no idea that this is even worth money. Like making a career, getting to those progressional steps, it's hard to figure that stuff out in our own memories because our memories are so short and so fleeting that you remember the stuff if you stop and think about everything that you've been through to get to a point, but you don't really remember what it felt like in that time.
Mhm.
So
And that's
yeah.
I think that is so well said, and I that's why I journal, and I love writing. Like, I will write books. I'm going to write books. Just wait. It'll take me a second. But I think it's so important to really look back and reflect on that and to almost imagine what that felt like. For example, this reminds me of so when I was 21, I think it was the first time I went to Outdoor Retailer. And for
Mhm.
those that don't know, Outdoor Retailer is, a massive trade show where brands from all over show up and basically show what's coming up in the next season. I kind of went with my friend's magazine. I may have lied a little bit to get into the show, which is fine because I could not have afforded, you know, yeah, getting in there. I was could not have afforded that. And so I remember I went by myself. I knew no one. I was there alone. I drove to Bozeman or from Bozeman to Salt Lake, 7.5 hours. I stayed at a friend's house. I would walk to the convention center because I like couldn't afford to pay for the parking. And I went by myself and I just would go into booths and I would say, like, hi, I'm Rachel. Here's a printed out guide of some of my artwork. Would you like to put my artwork on your things? And everyone was like, okay, that's cute. And I got rejected by everyone. The first 2 years I went, everyone. And one of those brands was Rumpl. And they were really kind. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, who are you? Who do you think you are? Get out of here. It was very much like, thank you so much for appreciating our blankets, but no, thank you.
Yeah.
And so I pitched them probably 3 times. I
Okay.
would just go into the booth and be like, "Hey," and then I went with Charles, one of the last times we went to OR kind of before the pandemic, and Charles knew them, and it was like, "Okay, maybe we could work something out." And that was just kinda what I got used to, but I was like, "I'm not gonna take no for an answer." Like, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
keep coming back because I had a feeling. And so I'm really excited to say that Rumpl and I just launched our 3rd blanket together, and that has been just the best partnership ever. I feel so fortunate to, be able to work with companies like that, and I really do think that that experience pushed me to become the artist I am today, because sometimes you do need a bit of rejection, of
Mm.
people saying like, "This is pretty good, but, like, try again next year."
Yeah.
And I don't think that this idea of, like, everyone's really good and, like, you're good enough. It's like, yeah, you are good enough as a person, but if you want your art to be out there in the world, like, you should keep working on it because
Mm.
it's fun. It's fun to master a craft. I mean, I've still every time I paint, I'm like, I'm just not there yet. I'm not where I wanna be, but it's also fun to see how far I've come.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that Rumpl didn't work with me when I first asked back when I was 21, 22, because I I don't know who would have bought that. Like, no
Yeah,
offense. It just I wasn't there yet, and, like, what the blanket that I just released with them is, like, one of my favorite paintings ever. And again, I'm
it's
so
beautiful.
proud of it.
Really,
Yeah,
really good.
thank you.
Like, if people haven't seen it, just came out a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. It's crazy the way that they're able to put stuff on blankets, and, like, even the little container they come in it's insane. It
Yes.
looks so
I
good.
know.
Sometimes you worry about, like, the art being downgraded on products, like, that's always a big concern, right? It's gotta be super high level stuff in order to get printed on something, and sometimes it gets botched, but I think they've done a phenomenal job at making stuff that just, like, it just works and it lasts and it looks good, right? It's beautiful. And like at the show, their booth is always like number one for the way that it looks aesthetically. It's just like such a pleasing thing to walk into.
And I think that's why I was so drawn to
Right.
it. I was like, "Okay, this is the perfect canvas for my art. Like, we just need to make this happen."
Right. Right.
And it's fun too because you know, living here in the northern part of Norway, we've probably had 10 days over 60 degrees where it's sunny, and the rest of the time it's pretty cool, pretty rainy, and so I bring my Rumpl on literally every hike, and we'll, like, get to the top of the mountain, and I'm like, "Well, I'll just be wrapping up in my little cocoon of color," and my friends are like, "Well, this is awkward and not fair."
Yeah.
So
Buy one
there's
if you want, like you can.
exactly.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's funny. This like immediately sounds like a plug whenever we talk about a mutual partner, but it's genuine. Like it's they're a great partner to us. I'm sure they're a great partner to you.
Mhm,
Those kind of relationships are kind of what we're talking about. It's like those are the relationships that you build by kind of keeping your foot on the gas and like trying new things all the time. And I agree with you. Like when you said that sometimes hearing no is a good thing. Like it really is. If everybody just tells you you're the shit all the time, it's really hard to actually go and like self-reflect on your work and be like, this is where it can be better. If everybody's always like, you're number one, you're the best, this was perfect, you get no real feedback, right? You don't get
mhm.
you don't get anything, right? It's also hard when somebody just tells you no with no elaboration, but like it at least gets you to go back and like look at yourself a little bit.
Absolutely, and I think a theme that just keeps coming up for me is to really not take people's opinions, but not take your own failures so seriously, but
Mm,
also not take your own successes so seriously. I
yeah,
think often we're like, "Oh, someone thinks that this part of me is amazing. I'm gonna run with that," even if that's not you.
right.
And I think that just learning to kind of center and be like, "Okay, no, I actually really wanna do this," for example, with Rumpl. This is, like, aligned, this is perfect, like, this is a product I believe in, this is artwork I love. It's, like, worth it, right? But if we decide that every time someone praises me, for example, like teenage me, every time someone praised me for like hitting a big cliff on skis or, pushing myself really, really hard climbing, things that maybe made me feel uncomfortable that led to me getting hurt.
Mm,
When we listen so much to other people's opinions in general, it's like not always doesn't always lead to a good place, and I think it's so important to have a really strong sense of self and to reflect back on our no's, reflect back on the yeses, reflect on all of it, and that's why I'm, like, so interested in community because I think that, yes, we can like, yes, we can, of course, figure out all of these things, right? Like, we can learn how to paint. We can learn how to ski. We can do all these things, but like think about going out skiing with your friends who are like pushing you and progressing you and you're like becoming a better skier or you see other artists on Instagram or you listen to a podcast and like we can all up level
mm,
so much faster than if we're just going at it alone. And I think that it's more important to pick up on almost like on the energies rather than on the specifics, when it
Mm.
comes to criticism or those yes or nos. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but I have a feeling
Yeah,
about it.
no, I get it. And so kind of in that same vein, how do you decide what's worth your time, what aligns with you, what opportunities you want to take? Because there does come a certain point when like everybody will start just throwing things at you and you're like, like this is a lot of work. And it's not the work that you shy away from necessarily, but it's how it aligns with you as a person, how it aligns with your brand, how it aligns with what makes sense for you, and also finding a proper value to make it work for both parties, right? So I guess it's a two part question, but what does that look like when you go and you decide something aligns with you, and then how do you go and not make it so personal that you can still get your value for things, right? I struggle with that all the time, where I'll be in a relationship with a brand and I actually like becoming to be friends with that person. And then I'm like, how do I value myself to this person that I now feel like I am a friend with, and still take their money, right? Because I still have to eat, like you still have to eat. We all
Yep.
still have to like pay our bills. But how do you figure out that? That's always the hardest thing for me, if I'm honest, is taking other people's money and trying to figure out what value to put on and it's honestly why we hired a sales guy. But what does that look like for you? What does that process look like for you once you figure out what aligns?
I love this question so much, honestly. And I love talking about money. I know that's super weird and taboo, but I think it's so important.
Shouldn't be.
And right? It's like money is an energy and money goes, flows. Obviously, there's some exceptions, but money wants to flow to people who are doing good things. So if something feels like, okay, I'm going to be sharing about the environment in this post, or I'm going to be sharing about a product that has actually really positively affected my life, or that just makes me happy. If it feels good, like in my bones, and if when I talk about it, I feel excited. Like we each have our own way of knowing, right?
Mm,
Like our own sort of indicator. Mine is like talking out loud. Like if I talk out loud and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this thing."
mm,
Then I know, okay, all right, like this is the thing for me. But I think it does take time. It takes pause, it takes reflection, and kind of like that iceberg analogy, there's the thing. Maybe it's a social media job, maybe it's working with a company. That's the tip of the iceberg that you can see above the water. And everything that goes underneath it is your beliefs about yourself, your money stories, your worthiness. And I think all of us experience that on a spectrum. I know that I have a lot of work to do around this still. And that's something I'm really interested in working on every day, honestly, is how do I value myself and see my worth? And in a society and a culture where women have been valued less than men
mm,
for a long time, where women are paid 68 cents to the dollar that men are.
mhm,
How do I not take that subconscious thing and real thing and say, oh, well, I really want this job, but I'm going to undercharge because I'm not worth it. No, like I am going to ask for what I know I am worth because I know that I do good things with my money. I
right.
know that I do good things with my energy. I know that I do good things with my time. And I know that I am creating positive change in the world. I know that I like to donate money to causes I care about,
Mm,
environmental causes, humanitarian causes. That brings me so much joy. And if I know in the back of my mind, like, okay, this is an exchange. What is my energy worth? What is my effort worth? And then what am I going to do with this money? And I know that all of that is positive and feels good and feels aligned, then I do it.
mm,
And if it doesn't work out with the other person, it's not personal. They have a budget that they're trying to meet. If they go over their budget and I need to come down, I'm happy to do it. But like, it has taken me so long to get there. It really has.
mm,
And to say like, "No, my painting is worth this much because I put so much effort and so much love and 20 whatever years of work." It's
yeah.
not just like the 100, 200, 300 hours I put into a painting. It's like my entire existence has been like
Yeah.
funneled into this, right? And I think if we can all start to see things like that, and I have no problem saying no because I have a very full inbox that I would have dreamed of having years ago, and now I'm like, okay, like all these opportunities, that doesn't feel good, that doesn't feel good, that doesn't align with me, like, no, thank you, no, thank you. And it's like the more space we can leave in our days and in our schedules, then that's just going to leave like a perfect empty seat for the perfect opportunity that's actually meant for you and actually aligned to go sit there. And I think so often we get caught up in this like hustle culture, like we were talking about earlier, where it's like, okay, I just have to take on every opportunity and money is scarce. And what if no one asks me again? And what if the economy tanks and I don't have this opportunity? Some of that is founded in reality. Some of that is based in fear. And I think if we can just like trust that the universe is abundant, there actually is enough money to go around. The billionaires just all have it.
Yeah.
We just need to change some things. We need to move some things around.
Yeah.
But like, there is enough money. If we can all start to, change our mindsets, and I really recommend, like, if this is interesting to anyone and sounds like, "Whoa, I've never heard that before," just, like, go on YouTube and start watching, like, money manifesting videos or whatever. Like, I think that there's so much wisdom to be found in just peeling back a few layers in our minds and starting to question what we believe, why we believe it, why we think we need to, look at someone who maybe has more money and say like, "Oh, well, must be nice." And it's like, but if we said, "Cool, like I want to be like that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to attract more money." I don't know.
Yeah. No, no, yeah, it's a real thing though, and it's funny because if you look at everybody and you're like, "Oh, they have this thing that I don't have, and why do they have it and I don't?" Like that's just a shit way to look at everything anyway. So I can't understand why people have that mindset, but it's also very difficult for me to understand that mindset because I've never really like I didn't grow up with money either. I grew up like really working for everything that I had since like a young age. And when you get to a certain point, for me, I was just like, I really never gave a fuck about the money anyway, right? Like I just did what I had to do then, and I do what I have to do now. It hasn't changed just because you make a little more money and you become like at a certain point where you're comfortable enough. You still have to do the same thing. It just changes and what you get paid for. Like you always, you're switching up the methodology in which you do those things, but you're not really you're still working just as hard. It's just your time and energy is put in different places. Like now, I used to fill my days every single day being in the ski shop, 60 hours a week, trying to figure out like how to make things work, trying to do this at the same time. And the more time I get and the more that this became my full-time job, I started to realize the more time I have to actually like take for myself, think about conversations, think about the business aspect of it, the more it's actually effective. So like instead of just running myself into the ground the whole time and being so obsessed with like making enough money to get to this point, uh, the more the more I just kind of figured out that like okay, I just need to give myself space for the things that I want to do. Like you need to give yourself actual space to think and be just be alive. And I think that's a very like cliche thing to say, but like people are so obsessed with the cycle sometimes and just being in that like habitual hamster wheel kind of, and they never actually get to like feel what it is to be themselves. They go on vacation and they like that's their release, right? And it all gets released in one, and then they're back to the same job, working the same thing every single day, and they're unhappy, right? And all they look forward to is that next thing. Whereas like for a lot, and I think that's actually one of the positive things that the pandemic has done is it's made a lot of people realize like, oh, I can work from home. Like I can work on my own terms, on my own schedule. And that's a really foreign concept to a lot of people.
Oh, I can relate so much to all of that. I feel like we've had similar journeys, in terms of, yeah, going from, I mean, I used to be so proud to be like, "Yeah, I just worked like 16 hours a day every day for the last like 30 days straight." I was
Right.
like proud of
Yeah.
it. And it's like, no, 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 that is just like a capitalistic patriarchal way to block yourself from your intuition and never actually enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Or like it just keeps you in the system.
Yeah.
And like really it makes sense. I was listening to a podcast where they talk about how Calvinism, which was sort of like this concept in the, I want to say like the maybe like the 1910s or something. Do not quote me on this,
Mm.
but basically the idea of Calvinism that was deeply rooted and still has lingering effects in American society is this idea that if you work really hard, then that proves that like God is has favored you. So if you are successful, then like God loves you and you'll have good things in life. And if you don't work really hard or you don't have money or you lose your money in the Great Depression, that means you're a quote loser, which was like this term coined then. And it's so interesting, right? How we're all so afraid of being like the quote loser or lazy. And like one of the most radical things that I have started doing over the past year is I try to take a nap. Like I was taking one once a day for a while, but I just like lay down and I take a nap. I'm like, it's the afternoon. I'm tired. I've been working for a while. Yes, I work from home. No, that is not possible for everyone. But like, naps are absolutely radical. It's saying, like, I am worth a lot. I deserve rest. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to lay down here on my couch. And then I wake up and I'm like, I feel amazing. And I know that's not everyone's reality with kids and working in an office and stuff. But on the weekend, like, I want everyone's homework is to find a day this month to lay down and try to take a nap. Like that's my homework for you because the more we can do just little like that's like kind of a silly example, but the more we can reward ourselves or not even reward ourselves, but the more we can prove to ourselves that we are worth rest, we are worth, getting to it's worth it to reflect on ourselves. It's worth it to uh notice ourselves, to appreciate ourselves, to pay attention to our needs, to remove ourselves from that cycle. Like, I promise you that every single person out there listening to this, doesn't matter what your job is, doesn't matter like any of it, I guarantee that if you decide, like, okay, 10 minutes a day, I am going to just whatever that thing is, like your happy thing, like just do that. Like whether that's going for a walk or just sitting and looking at the sun, like get away from your screen, step away from your kids if that's a possibility for like 10 minutes. Like if we can all just create that space and that magic in our days, then you start like breaking that cycle and you start showing the universe like, "Hey, I'm ready. I'm ready to have something come in. I'm tired of outputting. I'm tired of just working. I'm tired of just consuming. Like I'm ready to have, you know, something come in." I think that's, like, pretty amazing.
It's a crazy feeling, and it's such a foreign concept to people that and it has been for me for a very long time where you can just take time and just do something that you like every day. Like even if it's like you go, like you said, go for a walk, go do something, just literally get sun for 10. Like I used to just try to get
Yeah.
sun for 10 minutes and I'm like, this feels so good, right? So you just try to find these things that make it a little better for yourself without feeling guilty. And I think that's the thing that people struggle with so much because it's so ingrained in us to just work, 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 work that you don't take the time that you need to actually reset and get any better. And it doesn't actually help you in the end. Like it, and that's such a like we kind of we're sitting here sounding like we have the answer. I have no fucking answers. I have zero
No.
answers to anything, but like I can just speak to what's helped me and what I've done so far. And it's been extremely helpful to try to not feel guilty for just doing something that you want to do, right? Because as uh, like I've worked really hard. I've watched my parents work really hard since I was a little kid, and you just see work and work and work, and you kind of quantify your own self-worth with how hard you're working, and it makes for this like horrible cycle of feeling like you're not doing enough, even when you really want to do what you're doing, right? And that's one of the hardest things I think for people to get over is like I need to work, I need to make money, and like I'm risking a lot here if I'm not doing those things, but sometimes you just got to do it, right? Like sometimes you just got to do shit, even if it scares you, even if it's horrible, even if you're like, I like it seems like this big scary thing. You just have to kind of do it sometimes. And that's the advice that I kind of wish somebody gave me a long time ago. And maybe somebody did, but I wish I listened to that advice a long time ago, because you never believe anybody who's like, "Oh, you'll be fine. Just take the time that you need, rest, relax." You're like, you're being condescending right now. I know you are. I can feel it in your tone. I know you're like, "Oh, like it's going to be, oh, he took a break today." Like that, you just do what you have to do. And I think that's something that people need to kind of just do more for themselves.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think the guilt piece is so huge, and I
Huge.
resonate with everything you just said. I have struggled so much with feeling guilty, with feeling like, "Oh, if I take a break, then I'm not being, like, a good business owner for my customers, and if I take a break, then I will make other people feel jealous." That's a thing I've experienced
Oh yeah.
because people do want sameness. People do want, like, "Oh, I'm working really hard and pretty dissatisfied in my life, and you're happy?
Yeah.
How dare you? Who do you think you are?" And it's like, "Oh, well, you could do this too." But it's
Right.
so much easier to just be like, "Oh, yeah, totally. No, I just work myself to the bone too." And it is it is an addiction. Like the
Totally.
feeling of working hard and you do sort of stuff down your real feelings and your real self, your real sense of who you are, when you allow guilt and fear and all of these low vibration emotions to rule your days and your decisions. And it's
Mm.
so easy to get stuck in this. And like you were saying earlier, we do not know what we are talking about. We do not have it figured out. We just these are just things that we have experienced. And I look back on the last few years, my focus in early college was to go skiing and get my degree,
Right.
and it was pretty easy to get straight A's with an art degree. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I had to write a lot of papers, and yes, I had a pretty awful professor, but, it was pretty chill. I was lucky enough to have a scholarship and be paying in-state tuition, which I know was like a massive privilege, and my college was, like, extremely cheap.
Mm.
Um, and things felt pretty chill, things felt pretty easy. And then as I started to experience more success, as I started to have a few products in my store, my online shop, as I started to kind of be selling some originals from the gallery, as I started doing collaborations with brands like Choco, like Rumpl, like lots of other things. It kind of was like, "Oh my gosh, like, I have this responsibility, I have this real career, I have my employee, I have my warehouse," and it's really easy to get sucked into, "Oh, wow, there's a mink outside. That is so exciting. Okay, folks, I'm looking out on my porch," which is okay, our house is over the ocean. I literally live in a little red cabin over a fjord. Like, it's on stilts. It feels like you're on a boat. Anyways, I just looked outside and I saw a mink, which for anyone who doesn't know, it's kinda like a ferret, and I have not seen one here. I'm really excited about it.
Do you need a break? Do you want to go? Do you
Nope,
want?
it's all
Okay.
good. Not gonna got pretty excited.
I can freak out. Yeah.
What? I haven't seen one here. We've seen them around, but that is, like, actually a big deal. But, like, oh my gosh, just, like, the mink is the perfect segue into how how can we allow ourselves to remember that all of us, not that long ago, were children.
Yeah.
Yes, we have responsibilities. Yes, we have bills to pay. Yes, like, that is all true. And yes, this is coming from someone who has like, I make enough money in my life now to live comfortably, not opulently, not crazy, but like, I am able to do some things that I like to do. I am able to fly places a few times a year. Like, it's amazing. But I was a nanny not that long ago. That was my job. I watched kids. I did not get paid enough. And I remember just like, patching it all together and not having enough money and not feeling like it was enough and not feeling like I was enough and not feeling like I could rest and watching kids for 12 hours a day. and yet always feeling like so stressed and so frustrated. And I wanted to become an artist because I wanted to not feel guilty I wanted to feel like I had some more money and had some more time and some more space. And it's taken me a really long time to get here, but I finally am in this place where what I want in my day isn't to just wake up and grind, to prove to other people that I may not even know that I'm good enough, to prove to myself that I'm not lazy, to prove to myself that I deserve the life I have. Like,
Mm.
I have worked really hard for this life. Have I had to work less hard than some people? Probably. Have I had to work more hard than some people? Yes. But, like, it doesn't matter. Like, we all just need to focus on our own lives and focus on how can we bring in whatever our circumstances, how can we bring more abundance, more excitement, more joy, more fun, all of that into our lives? How can we not block ourselves off from that stuff because we think we're not good enough? When we prove to the universe over and over again that, like, all I'm good enough for is working really hard and having one vacation a year, the universe is like, okay, sure, if that's all you think that you're good enough for. But if
Mm.
we decide, like, I'm not going to feel guilty for taking the morning off. I'm not gonna feel guilty for having a sick day when I don't really feel that great. I'm not gonna feel, like, I think that obviously we each exist within different realities, but I think we can all find so much meaning and so much fun.
Mm.
Yes, fun,
Yeah.
always. And
It,
that's why I love being an artist because it's like it's so fun. Just me and my mink.
it's yeah, I hope that everybody kind of gets that opportunity to like feel or to look at things that way, right? Because I think if everybody's just looking at everyone else and they're like, oh, this person has this thing, this person has this thing, it's such a crazy, horrible feeling mindset to be in, right? Like use that kind of stuff as motivation if that's what gets you going, but using it as like, oh, this person's there, and they're like you have no idea what anybody did to get to their to get to where they're at. You have no idea. Like
Mhm.
maybe some like people do genuinely just get lucky too. Like that. I don't hate the person who just won the lottery. Like they won the lottery. Sick. Like I don't like good for them. I'm psyched. I wish I won. Like actually, that's a yeah. I don't think I'd want to it blow it all so fast. But it you don't look at it like why can't I have that, right? Like it because
Mhm.
you probably could. Like you probably could do a lot of the things that other people do if you really wanted to. And that is a very like privileged way to look at things. Like it's you have to be able to like get yourself to a point where you're happy with yourself and where you're comfortable and where you're like constantly working on that aspect of you as a person to even be able to like look at that stuff in this way, right? Because
Mhm.
I can tell you like when I was working and I'm still am working extremely hard all the time and doing a million things at once. And like I said, I like the chaos aspect of it. So I tend to bite off more than I can chew all the time. Um, but when I was in that space where I was like not getting what I wanted and things were really difficult, it's really hard to be like, this is gonna work, right? Like it's hard to put yourself in that position where you can feel okay with doing what you need to do to feel comfortable so that you can keep going towards whatever it is that your goal is. So I guess my kind of question for you is how did you figure out like that you wanted to do this to the point where you were willing to do whatever it took to make your artwork successful and to make you I don't know happy with yourself. Like that's a really fucking hard thing to do. Like that's a really hard thing for people to do.
Yeah, I mean, I love this question, and I think just one more point I'll add on kind of our last
Yeah.
conversation is that I think so often people see someone who's happy and successful, and they think they're happy because they're successful, and they forget that often the happiness, the joy, the abundance mindset, and the belief in a better world and a better life often, usually comes before the success. You
Mm,
believe in it, you know it's there, you picture it, you manifest it, and then you take the actionable steps, and then that becomes your reality. And I
mm,
feel like that's very much what led me to becoming an artist and to having success is like I said, I was a nanny, um I was teaching art lessons to a few kids, and I would do that in the summers and especially, and then, some throughout like the school year. And my rent was at one of the houses I lived in, it was like $230 a month, so like super low overhead.
right.
And I was like, I would just sort of picture like, I want to be a full time artist. I want to work with these brands. I would show up to outdoor retailer. I would just put in the work. I could picture it. I could picture how I wanted to spend my days. I was very clear about the brands I wanted to work with. I was very clear about how much money I wanted to make a year. I was very clear about knowing that I was going to make it happen. And
Mm,
one of my favorite quotes is write your dreams in pen and your method in pencil.
mm,
And I think it's like so easy to say, okay, well, to become a full time artist, all the money that goes into my business or whatever needs to come from art. And that is just not true. I mean, speaking of getting lucky, one of the things I was so, so lucky to have experienced was I was asked to be in a film called National Parks Adventure that we filmed in 2013. And okay, no, I didn't make like a ton of money, but I made some money. We traveled around for a month and all over the US. It was Conrad Anker and Max Lowe and I. Feels like a million years ago. And it was this film that played in theaters all over the world. So I got paid to go on these speaking gigs where I would go to Mexico City by myself and speak in front of 300 people.
mm,
Or I got to go to like Germany and Spain and France, and it was crazy. No, that does not happen to everyone. Like that is what we're talking about when we're talking about lucky. That was like right place, right time. But so being open to and I was in college while that happened, so I was, like, working remotely. So we would film from, like, 4 AM to, like, 9 PM, do dinner, and then I would stay up for, like, 3 hours writing my thesis and painting, like, no joke. It was a crazy chapter, right? But I could picture it. I knew that I wanted to create art about the outdoors, about my life, about the things I was seeing, and I knew that I wanted to inspire other people to think outside of the corporate box, and I didn't know how I was gonna get there. Like, that national parks adventure job was so random. The babysitting was so hard. Like, I watched 3 boys that were 9, 10, and 11. I was like, "Oh my gosh," like, that was hard, okay? Like, and I got paid $12 an hour to watch all of them.
uh,
Speaking of knowing your worth, and yeah, like, what? What was I thinking? It's like $4 a child, and, um,
do what you got to do.
but you just do what you have to do, and I was able to make the switch to being a full-time artist after I had been doing both for a while.
Mm,
Right? And I think so often we get in our heads that, like, okay, if I want to do this thing and I want to start my business, it's going to be all on my own. It's going to happen exactly like this. I'm not going to have another job. No, like, be pragmatic. Be like, do not rush, but also do not wait.
mm,
Like, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Like,
Oh,
don't put yourself in a financial situation where you are like, it's not good, but also like put yourself in a financial situation where you're like, okay, like this has to work at this time. And yeah.
how did you deal with the anxiety that comes with something like that, right? Because you're like, am I going to be able to make money? Am I going to make this work? How do I like what's next? What happens if like everything stops, right? Like what happens if people decide tomorrow that Rachel's art isn't cool anymore, right? Like what like those kind of things are things that go through anybody's mind when they're making a change to like working for themselves, right? That's one of
Mhm.
the scariest things is like it's actually all on me now. There's not a job that I can lean into. There's not someone else that I can blame when something doesn't happen. There's not somebody else that's like there to fix my problems for me. You're it. Like it stops with you. and it's your business. So how did you deal with the anxiety of that, right? And maybe anxiety is the wrong word. It's different for everybody, but for me, it's been anxiety. So
Yeah.
how do you deal?
I think that just trusting in myself and in I say the universe all the time, but like I'm obviously a deeply spiritual person, not religious, but very much like I I just knew that like, okay, if this doesn't work out, I have so many things that I will do. Like
Yeah.
I will go back, I will be a nanny, maybe ask for, 12.50 an hour instead of 12. Just kidding. But like, I just trusted that I was good enough,
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not amazing, but like I'm good enough that if this doesn't work, I can just work in a restaurant. I can nanny. I can do any of these things. But I was like, but I think it's going to work. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe I was just really naive, but the feedback I was getting from people was like, we haven't seen something like this before.
Yeah.
And that really meant a lot because I was just painting straight from my heart. I was just painting the things that and saying the things. I think that was a huge part of my career as an artist has been not my art, has been sharing my story, sharing my fears, sharing my insecurities about things, being vulnerable, and just not being afraid to talk about it all. And I know that's not everyone's path, and I have been, like, so lucky, like, right place, right time, amazing community, but I've also never stopped believing in myself, and I think it helps to have parents who s like, thank goodness, were like, "Yeah, you should do that. We know how hard you work. We know that you, have always wanted to be an artist since you were, like, 7."
Mm. Yeah.
And I think that, yeah, just doing so much inner work because you will never do anything in the outside world until your inner world is at a place where you think it's that you deserve it, where you think that it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I couldn't have said it better myself. I last thing I kind of want to touch on with you is, and then I'll let you get out of here, is the process that you kind of go through as an artist, because I don't think we've really talked about that enough. What does that look like? People have no like I don't know where you even start. Like, talk about everything but your art, I think at this point.
I know.
Where 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 do you start? What does that process look like? Do you have a process? I kind of assume everyone does, but I, I'd like a little insight into that and how you kind of organize your thoughts in a way that they can be put onto a piece of paper.
Yeah, I think that's hilarious that of course, we haven't really talked about art, but it makes sense because, like, I am an artist, but so little of my life is actually my paintings, if that makes any sense.
No, it totally.
Um, so
What we
it's
said
it's
about the
actually
iceberg.
perfect.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So I think the first thing that's just so important to me is going outside.
Mm,
I love to just go on walks in nature and observe everything. I pay so much attention to the way light hits a plant or a mountain. I pay so much attention to the clouds. Like I am always picturing how I would paint something. It gets a little old sometimes. My brain is like, and then I would take the ruler and I would put it at this angle to draw that railing. Like,
mm,
why am I like this? But
yeah,
it's amazing. And I think that's a step that's kind of going on in the background at all times. It's like having music playing at all times in your house. It's like that's just the constant where whenever I'm outside, I'm really paying attention. I'm thinking about how I'd mix colors. It's kind of like always I'm just always in it. And that is, that comes with time, but where you really start embodying it. And then I take photos. I usually compile a bunch of photos on my iPad and I will, kind of cut things out or erase them in like Procreate, which is the
yeah.
funniest app name ever. And I will kind of make these collages of my photos to create the scene that I want. Because often the scenes that I paint, I'm an oil painter, I paint landscapes. I
Yeah.
love that this is at the end. And I love painting close-ups of flowers with mountains in the background. That's kind of one of my signature things, and it just makes me so happy. And it's sort of like this microcosm, macrocosm in the same scene, not really possible to see in real life or with a camera lens, where the foreground and the background is in focus, where you see that like on the floor or, you know, on the ground in the flowers, super close up detailed with the mountains in the background. So I used to just kind of do that in my head where I would look at the photos and I would sketch it out. And now I just do it on my iPad where I actually visually create the painting in photos beforehand, because it is much easier to have a photo reference. I love painting outside. I found it really hard to do here in Northern Norway because it's always windy and raining. So I've only done that a few times this summer. I've been, you know, really painting in my studio a lot, but yeah, basically I do an underpainting. I love using this really hot pink color because I love pink. It's one of the questions I'm asked the most is like, why is your underpainting in pink, or why are paintings pink? And underpaintings are how you sort of uh, plan out the painting, plan out the composition, and then when you go over with the oils, it is just like a really quick or a quicker process. And traditionally, artists would use burnt sienna, which is kind of like a browny orange color. And I use pink because it makes me happy. Like that's the only reason. Um, and then yeah, like right now I have 11 paintings I'm working on.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just like working on a lot at once. Partially because it takes time for oil paint to dry. If you've ever used it, you know, it takes, you know, days or weeks depending on like the thinning mediums. And so it's fun. I'll kind of start a lot of different things. I'm like you. I work well in the chaos. I work well with under pressure, with deadlines, with so many things going on. I'm working on these paintings. I'm, you know, going to announce my new gallery that I'm showing in tonight. I have products I need to shoot. I have a shop coming up. I'm designing all of our holiday collection of apparel and products. I'm creating a planner and a journal and all of these things, and working on 11 paintings. And then, yeah, kind of the final step after I've done the painting, which is a whole podcast in and of itself, or rather videos. Um, then I let them dry. I paint the sides black. I'm trying to figure out how to get my paintings to America without me having an anxiety attack, because shipping them seems terrifying. So at this point, my plan is to finish
Oh,
all of these paintings and then bring them on the plane with me,
what?
some in my
That's
carry-on, and then some. I know that sounds crazy, but then they're with me.
oh my god.
Most of them will
That's
be in my
crazy that
carry-on.
shipping it, but I guess I don't really know how else. Jesus. That's fucking
I'm like, just let go. The universe will guide you. And I'm like, except for your paintings, control them.
except for
No, but
shipping. The one for shipping.
I've flown with my paintings a lot, actually. Like, all you need is a cardboard box, and then you put that cardboard box in another cardboard box, and then you put that in another one, and then you put like 400 fragile stickers on it. It works, okay?
I trust you. I'm never doing it. I trust you wholeheartedly.
But yeah, that's been an interesting thing. Is like I have been really trying to paint Norway, to paint this new place I live, and I was really struggling to do it. And I told my therapist, because therapy is amazing and I have it every week. It changed my life. And I was like, I can't paint. She was like, well, what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm trying to paint Norway, but I feel like I haven't been here long enough, and like blah blah blah. And she's like, why don't you just paint Montana? You miss it. I was like, oh, okay. So then I've just been painting Montana, and these will all go in the gallery I show at Altitude Gallery in Bozeman. And it's kind of cool because it has actually helped me process and let go of my old life and remember that like I can just go there a couple times a year and be there and experience those places. And I can also paint them, because the coolest thing about painting, for me at least, is that when I am working on a piece, I am there. Like I feel so connected to that place and to that experience. And I think that's so fun how if I'm feeling nostalgic and a bit like I'm missing home, I'm like, "Oh, I'll just work on my Lone Peak painting, or I'll just work on my piloted index painting, or I'll just work on my glacier painting." Like, it's pretty amazing the power of really, I think a theme of this whole episode is, like, the power of our intention and our minds and our and yeah, just our thoughts and how we can shift our energy by just thinking about things from a different angle or just not making it so hard. Like, it doesn't have to be so hard.
Mm. Yeah, it doesn't have to be so hard for sure. There's a lot of things about everything, I guess, that can be so simplified if we kind of take ourselves out of it, right? And we take like just look at the process from the outside, and that's one of the hardest things I think for any creator to do is like step back and look at how things that they make are going to be perceived, right? And like not just perceived by like the couple people who hate it, the couple people who love it, like perceived like as what it is, right? As the expression of self that this kind of stuff can be, what what it actually looks like. I think that's such a hard thing for people to grasp, and it's such a hard thing to master as anybody who creates anything. It's very bizarre. I have no yeah, I don't know. Um I what when you're as far as the business of selling art goes, how much of it is actually like originals? How much of it is prints? How much of it is appearance? Like what uh, from the business side of it, what does that look like for you? How do you decide where your energy goes, where your effort goes, and where do you assess the most value to your brand and to your business?
Oh my gosh, this is a constant daily struggle. Um, my hope is that by showing at this new gallery, that originals can become a bit more of my income again. They used to be maybe like half originals, half prints, and then it became like uh, you know, more apparel and stuff. I would say now it's probably like 80% my e-commerce,
Mm.
um, which is apparel
It's really good.
and
It's really like it's a solid
thanks.
website. Like it's really it's pretty seldom that people have a good website and a good brand and good art as a whole. But yeah, yours is great. I was on it with
Thank you.
let
I work
you tell.
I work probably too hard on it. But, yeah, I think it really does fluctuate. I It's funny because I think the perception is that, like, mm, maybe some people think that Instagram is, like, a ton of my income, but the reality is, like, Instagram paid ads is maybe l or yeah, I guess paid promotions would be maybe, like, 5% of my income, and then,
Yep.
yeah, the rest of that is the gallery, but I'm hoping that the gallery stuff can really, like, pick up because 'cause I've been feeling yeah, more called to create the slower work. I love designing so much, but it's really stressful to invest so like, to me, so much money into these products and then hoping people like them, and trying to find that balance between the new products or restocking the old ones and, like, people really loved them and they sold out, but then, there's a million questions I ask myself every day, and also I think right, there's this, like, push and pull between, "Okay, well, I'm selling a bunch of prints right now. Oh, and now I'm not. Is it because people don't want prints? Is it because they're all sold out? Should I focus more on that?" And
Mm.
it's weird. It's like it's like a mobile, where you have, like, the little balancing, it's like it's really easy to, constantly feel like I'm out of balance with my business and not really knowing what to focus on, especially since um, as much as I would love to say that I have, like, a big creative team, like, it is me. We take the photos, I edit the photos, I upload the photos, I write the descriptions, I do the marketing emails, I do the Instagram, I make the reels, I make all of it. Like, I have a customer service person that, like, will respond to folks, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I'm at this place again where for a while I was fulfilling orders for 40 to 60 hours a week in addition to my other work. And then I decided to get a warehouse and now I have customer service, I have the warehouse, but I'm at this place where I do want to focus more on actually painting and on my YouTube channel. I started it this winter. I released 4 videos. It was like my favorite thing ever to make them. And then we moved and I've just felt so ungrounded. And like my dream for the future is to paint, to yes, still have my business, my like e-commerce business, but to focus more on, like I was talking about earlier, that community platform where it's more about sharing ideas and creativity and supporting one another and a bit less about like selling stuff. Because as much as I try to have my products be eco-friendly and made in the US and Canada, it's inevitable that like I am creating a carbon footprint with my business. And like, no, I'm not perfect. And yes, I carbon offset, but like that's still not perfect, you know? And I just want, yeah, I just want my brand to feel like getting a hug from your best friend on like a sunny day while like out in the mountains. Like I just want it to feel like so fun and comforting and welcoming and inspiring. And I think that, you know, it's scary, it's hard to trust in the economy, it's scary thinking about the environment and the way the planet is going, but like I believe in people. I believe in the goodness of people to like do the right thing. And you know, maybe that sounds naive, but I just think more and more the really bad things are loud and the really like I love how this is a segue. This is just the most random tangent, but like but the truth is we have to like yes, business is what you want to do in your brand and what you put out in the world and your efforts, but it's also like I'm just trying so hard to be aware of the world and aware of what we all need and not just continue to say like I'm just going to make these products because it's fun and I like to and then I invest all this money in them and then I'm worried about them selling. Like I just want to move forward with how the world is going and to like yeah, just be this like so much less of just a store and a brand and so much more of a friend and a
Mm.
home and like a place where you go to feel less alone and feel inspired and feel happy and feel supported. And I just I'm just so excited. Like I freaking love my job and I know that not very many people can say that, but I just think that anyone who doesn't, you can always bring a different perspective to it, you
Mm.
know? And you can always say like, "Wow, I am so glad I get to show up to my job and make money to like feed myself and my family." You know, like there's always a different way to look at it. And that's something that I hope people have gotten out of this conversation.
Yeah, for sure. If they haven't by this point, it'll be
They
hard.
forgot. They
Yeah,
just skipped
yeah,
through.
like just yeah, 15, 15, 15, 15, and just that's I it is what it is. Rachel, this has been fantastic. This is kind of your time to plug things. I know your husband has a new podcast coming out, so for sure let's
Yeah.
mention that. With Burkhard, which is great. So Charles, not the post serial heir throne, but your husband and Chris Burkhard have a new show, which I still am not certain on the name of. So you can give us that, give us where people can find all of your stuff and anything else
Yeah.
you have going on and want to plug. This is your time.
Oh, yeah, and thank you so much for this conversation, Adam. It has really meant a lot. I This is actually only the second podcast I've ever done
You're really good.
because thank you.
You're a good talker. And like, I always wonder, like this is and maybe this is a little inside baseball for people, but my biggest anxiety is if people will have a conversation, right? Or if they think it's like like an interview for a magazine or like a quiz or something, That's
Or they're
always
like, "Yes.
ready.
No."
People do that. And sometimes I'm like, oh, this is so hard. That's like when I get challenged and I'm like, I wish I had questions written down. Like,
Aw,
really,
well
yeah, it is what it is. So great. I appreciate it very much.
Well, yeah, I've loved this conversation, and if anyone wants to check out my website, it's rachelpohlart.com, and I'm sure that'll be in the show notes, but it's spelled Pohl, my last name. And I'm rachel.pohl on Instagram. My husband is Charles Post, and Yeah, charlespost.com, all of that good stuff. Charles and Chris Burkhardt are releasing a podcast soon. I believe it is called The Traverse, but maybe don't quote me on that. And yeah, we also have our Samoyed named Mr. Canute, and he has an Instagram. So please go follow Mr. Canute if you just need some joy and fluffiness in your day.
I'm still a little out to lunch on how I feel about dog Instagram accounts. My dog is like very much the opposite. It's like I hold on to my dog with everything that I have. Like I'm like, this is just my little bubble of happiness. But I actually like I wish I could have and maybe one day we'll have your approach to this where it's like, my dog is great and makes me happy. I want him to make everybody happy. So
Right?
I'll,
Yeah, we resisted for a while, to be totally honest, and then we realized that Canute's personality is just too big,
yeah,
and so we wanted to give him his own page, and what I have loved so much about Mr. Canute is making him really cocky and, like, really full of himself, because I just think it is so funny. He's just like, "Can we just take a moment to appreciate how amazing I am?" Like, it just cracks me up because we all know those people in the world who do that and they're not kidding. So
yeah,
it's a little bit of, that, and it's also, like, a bit of dogs know their worth. And, like, what if we all showed up and, like, maybe we don't have to say it out loud, but what if we all just showed up and we were like, have you seen how amazing I look on this paddleboard? Like, I am not falling in the water right now. Like, this is awesome. Like, there's a little bit of that too. Like, don't take yourself so seriously, people.
it's true. It's true. My dog unapologetically wants to play every 3 seconds. And it's like, I don't care what you're doing. And it actually brings you down a lot to like real
Mhm.
world and what's important. And that's been so helpful to me is like, yeah, nothing else really matters except for what matters right this second for a lot of people and especially for your dog. So
Yes. Oh my gosh. And our cat, our dog and our cat that we flew across the ocean.
yeah. I
They
don't
are
even
such
want to talk about
champions.
how, yeah, I don't even want to talk about that experience. That's stressing.
Next podcast, you can interview Canute and he can
Yeah,
tell you the whole story.
perfect. I'm sure
Okay.
it'll be very good. Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate this. This has been great.
Oh, thank